Hello, YouTube. This is your boy, Traditional Woman Lover. And today, the topic I'm going to talk on today is called Are All Foreign Women Gold Diggers? Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this topic is because many times when men travel overseas and they deal with some of the foreign women, no matter the country, whether it's, Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, Philippines, Ukraine, one of the things that come up a lot is a lot of men ask, are the women there do they just want your money? Are they just there to get a green card? Will they love you for you? And a lot of times when men, we, marry these women or bring them back to the states, a lot of times people are, looking at them like they don't really love you. And a lot of times they feel like when you bring them back to the States, you know, they're gonna transform into like a modern woman, into like Americanized woman and that kind of thing. So I kind of wanted to speak on this a little bit and give a little bit more context, and then also bring some comfort to some of the people who are interested in traveling overseas and dating some of the women, but they had a little, they have like a little bit of reserve against some of the women there. They've heard a lot of bad things and that kind of thing. So let me start off by saying this. One of the strangest things about this topic is that, people act as if gold diggers only exist overseas, as if we don't have women in the U.S. nearly lining up to date, basketball players, rappers. There's a thing called monkey branching in the rap pill space, in which a lot of times a woman will get with a man who makes a certain amount. As soon as she finds another man who makes another, even better amount, she'll monkey branch and go date that man as well. We've heard plenty of stories of, many women marrying some of these actors, basketball players, leaving them, cleaning them out, taking their money and that kind of thing. So let me say this. In any country, even in the West, even in first world countries, there are literally gold diggers everywhere. So one of the biggest things that you have to do is you have to know how to vet a lot of these women. Um, you know, you don't just it's like you don't take the first woman that you deal with or you approach or that says yes to you. You still have to do a vetting. The problem is a lot of guys when they come from the West, especially the United States, the Matrix, they kind of come with, as AMS would say, they come with a bit of scarcity. So in the U.S., a lot of times they've gone periods without dating. They're struggling dealing with women, and many times they're just very thirsty and just happy to have a woman talking to them. So when they finally come to a foreign country, um, they keep that same mindset. So when they start dealing with the women, they jump on the first woman that deals with them or approaches them. They don't really vet them. They're just kind of happy that a woman has been dealing with them. Then somehow down the line, if that woman winds up using them, taking their money, running off or something like that, or if she happens to turn out that if it happens to turn out that while they're dating her, maybe couple months later, she just leaves and they assume that maybe she was just using them for the money and that kind of thing. So let me say this. When they did a study on the marriage rates between Americans and Americans and foreign spouses, those marriages have, I believe, about an 80% success rate. So in many cases, when the woman does marry you, um, she's really put it this way: you have a higher probability that if you married a foreign woman, that your marriage will be successful versus if you marry American women. I believe it was still sitting at about 50 to 60%. Some people were debating it and that kind of thing. But either way, it just is a shock to most people. It should be that the rate is actually higher. So here's the thing. If the woman was going to go dig you, in general, the way they're going to do it is they're not going to get married to you and then leave the state. And the reason for that is um, when you marry an American, the way the government protects a lot of Americans is um, it takes about as soon as they marry you, they don't get a green card. It takes about at least I believe about like 2 years, 2 years of them living with you and you guys being together, and then even then after the 2 years, I believe it's not full citizenship. It's like I think like I said, it just may be like almost like a basic green card. But here's the thing: within those 2 years, the government gives you the chance to kind of debate the marriage, and if at any point the marriage turns out in your view to feel like it was fraudulent or you've been used, you can actually nullify the marriage, and the person has to go back. You will not be responsible for any finances related to that marriage because it turned out to be fraudulent. So you have that protection on your side as well. A lot of the women in these countries, they know that if they go with you, if they move to your country and go with you, you in a sense you kind of have ultimate control because for those 2 years, the spouse cannot work. You're the only person that can work, that can support them. So think about that. They would have to go to your country and for a whole 2 years they would have to put on this facade and fake and act like they into you when they're really not into you. And they would have to do that for a full 2 years, knowing that you're the only person that can supply them with money and food. And keep in mind also, in many cases, a lot of these women don't speak English that well. It's not their first language. So they're going to a foreign country where they don't know anybody. They don't know the language. You have to support them. In many cases, most of the gold diggers are not going to do that. The way they're generally going to get you is they're going to act like they're in love with you in their country, and they're going to try to finesse you out of finances in their country and get you sending money there. And when you go back to the States, they want you sending the money there while they're dealing with other men sending the money. That's generally how they're going to do it. They're not going to go through a whole marriage ceremony, meet your family, have their family there, and do that. Now, there are cases that have done it. There was a woman on the internet that had a YouTube channel that talked about how she finessed her husband or something like that, and she pretty much married him. She said in a sense, trying to get into the States, that kind of thing. But I want you to know that this is very, very, very rare. And even then, I still kind of question that marriage. I didn't get a good chance to look at the type of guy that she married. But a lot of times, what happens is you have these much older guys who are probably like their 60s, their 70s. And then they're marrying women. They're like in their 20s, that kind of thing. I'm not saying that those relationships don't work, but they're going to be very, very hard because once she gets to the States, she's going to want to go out. There's this huge age difference. And in many cases, it's a very risky type of marriage, In general, one of the rules that people online have been saying is that generally you want to date a woman about half your age plus 7. That's pretty much like a good range of where you kind of want to be, but to each his own. So I won't judge, that kind of thing. So, but either way, I just wanted to put that out there and just let you know that. So you have that. Now, let's get to the other piece of this. So then people would say, okay, so if they're not after your green card and they're not after your money, okay, so then why do these women want you? Why not in the States? Why wouldn't you be able to get these kind of women in the States? So here's the thing. In the United States, as we all know, women make their own money. Jobs are, I'm not going to say they're plentiful, but in comparison to a lot of these other countries, jobs are pretty plentiful. The government has, what's the word? Like pretty much anything that a man can kind of do for a woman, the government already kind of does it for them. For example, if a woman has child out of wedlock, she can get WIC, she can get, housing. They have shelters for them. And especially now, a lot of times they're trying to actually get a lot of women off welfare. So a lot of times the government is trying to find them jobs and that kind of thing. But in other countries, it's not like that. There's no public housing in many cases. There's no unemployment. You won't have, there's no, like the way we have child support here is not really the case there. So what I'm saying in many cases is they don't really have a support system. So if you fall on bad times and you don't have any family, you're kind of out of luck. And what you are generally seeing in a lot of these countries is you'll see a lot of, lots of prostitution going on. You see women, there's lots of prostitution. There's lots of crime. Unemployment is very, very high in some cases. So in many cases, a woman, if she doesn't have a family, she doesn't have some type of support. And in this case, as I told you before, they don't have support for the government. So a lot of times women are looking for a good man who can provide for them, who can look after them, who's willing to start a relationship with them. And so yeah, so here you come as, this American or from France or the UK or whatever, whatever first world country you come from. You come in, she easily can see that, you have a little bit of status with you. You're able to provide. And in many cases, you might be a really, really good guy. You might be, really handsome. And I'm also going to say this as well. It's not also just about, first world men having, money and being able to provide and that kind of thing. Because a guy told me a story once about when he was at a nightclub. There was a woman that she kind of got very angry with one of the bouncers. The bouncer clocked her, knocked her out completely. She fell on the ground. Here's the thing. The police came. Now, most people would think in the States, okay, the police come, they're gonna arrest the bouncer. He shouldn't put his hands on the woman. That didn't happen. Instead, what happened was they came, talked to the bouncer. He told her what happened. They literally picked the woman up. They just drug her, dumped into a cab, and then they just drove her off. And I say that to say that the way things apply here in the States, as far as the dynamics between men and women, is not the same. So that being said, also keep in mind that in many cases, in the United States, if somebody commits a crime, they hit somebody, the police are there instantly, they're arresting the person. In many cases in Colombia, the police have a very, they don't do a really, really good job as far as solving cases and that kind of thing. So there are plenty of criminals who get away with assaults, murders, robberies, that kind of thing. So in many cases, a lot of times, there's even, guys can, I hate to say, in many cases, a lot of times women, they're also looking not just for money for men, but they're also looking for security, because men there can kind of, I've talked to girls there that told me about many times if they have gotten robbed at knife point. One time, one of the girls, she went to she went to the bank to get some money. As soon as she came out, somebody was there with a knife and took the money from her. She didn't have her father wasn't there. Her father lives in like a completely different city. And basically what I'm trying to say is that the women also there looking for a strong man who can support them, who can protect them. And as an American and as a, first world, man in general, when you come there, you kind of come with status, you kind of come with protection. So that's very attractive to a lot of the women there. And they know that you can provide that for them, and you can kind of at least take them to a safe spot. You can look after them, you can feed them. And in addition to that, in a lot of these countries, a lot of men, they're very, they to a certain degree, they're kind of spoiled, because they're kind of used to having, they're picking the litter as far as like the women and that kind of thing. So, because as I said before, unemployment is very high. So any man that is somewhat employed, he has options there. So, and as I told you before, there's no system like it is in the U.S. where they're making sure that, that the children provided for and they have food and shelter and that kind of thing. Because I asked one of the women one time that had children, I asked her, I said, hey, do they have any like charity places where you can, like a secondhand shop where you can go get clothes for your kid? And she basically told me, no, they don't have that there. And this is in Colombia. So what I'm trying to say there is that the environment there is very dire. And in that case, men who can provide and provide some type of security are very, very valuable there. So as a man that comes from a very first world country, that has, a way to provide for himself, and, dresses really well and can treat, and unfortunately we're conditioned to kind of, in the United States, to be somewhat simpish, whereas in the US, that kind of behavior and that romantic type of attitude is kind of looked down upon us as far as the women. And this is, in this sense, especially in Colombia, is actually a positive. And you actually can get away with being like that, though I don't recommend it, because there are, I don't want to paint this fairy tale vision of foreign countries as if there are no women there that play games and if there's no woman that'll take advantage of you. So I still would encourage you to get red pill aware and be somewhat still, assertive. Still be somewhat assertive. But I can assure you that the women there extremely feminine. They're looking for a very good man. And the biggest thing you need to do to avoid gold diggers is just really vet them. Like as I said before, um, pay attention to the way they deal with you when you do, spend time with them and you want to show them affection, you want to kiss them. Look at how they respond. Do they lean into the kiss? When you touch them, do they, how do they look when you put your arm around them? Do they kind of lean into you, or are they kind of turning away in a kind of a cold manner? One of the biggest things about women in general too is, as they always say, look at what somebody spends their money and time on. That's what they love. Does she ever, try to spend time with you when you're there? She reaches out to you and say, "Hey, let's spend time together." Does she spend money on you? Like the girl I was talking with, she bought me a shirt. She set up a whole dinner. She pretty much cooked dinner for me. So you need to kind of pay attention to those kind of things. Is she cooking for you? Is she concerned about you? Is she reaching out to you when you respond through text? Does she respond to text quickly, or is she just kind of wasting time? You need to pay close attention to all these things, because a lot of times, as the saying goes, when people show you who they are, believe them. And I believe in many cases, the women who are gold diggers, there's going to be several red flags there. It's just that a lot of times the guys are so happy that a girl is finally talking to them that they overlook these signs. I'm going to do another video about the signs you need to look for to tell whether or not this woman is a gold digger, or what type of woman you need to deal with, the ones you need to avoid, the signs and that kind of thing. But I don't want to hold this video up, so I wanted this to be mainly focused on that question in general, which is, are all foreign women gold diggers? And the answer is no. No, there are gold diggers everywhere. You just need to vet. You need to vet thoroughly. And I'll do some more videos on that. But until then, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave your comments. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and look out for my next video. Until next time, signing off. Signing off. Bye, YouTube.